Hey, good afternoon, everyone. AM950, Progressive Voice of Minnesota. Doug Padgett back in. It's a Friday, and I'm glad to be back. I've got Hunter, of course, over there in the studio, working a little magic from here at the in the bunker that is Peacedale Studios, the center of the Edina resistance to what's been going on in our country, and ready for the flourishing of the state of Minnesota in the 2019-2020 biennium. Super thrilled for it. And it's Friday, and I think that means that if all things align in the stars, if our stars align, that means we're going to have a chance to talk to astrophysicist Paul Wallace, one of our favorites around this place. I know a lot of the people who listen to the show really like Paul Wallace. They tell me that all the time. They say they'd like to hear more from that guy. So how we doing there, Hunter? We got a shot at Paul Wallace. We got our astrophysicist fired
Yes,
up.
I just got him on the
Fired
line
up
now.
and ready to go. All right. Hey, Paul, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, good, Doug.
Hey, really a big week for the astrophysicist, my friend. Landing that little project of theirs up on Mars.
Yeah, that little project. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
it's amazing to me that they pulled it off again. It's only like a 40% success rate doing that kind of thing.
Really? What?
Yeah, I thought it was higher than that, but what I've read of it this week indicates that it's about 40%. Going up, but still about 40%. So, yeah, it's risky.
So, for people who didn't follow this because it was, I don't know, like Thanksgiving, or Donald Trump was ruining the world, or they were spending time doing whatever it is that was meaningful to them. Remind people about this spectacle that the good kids over there at NASA put together. They shot this rocket.
Yeah, after about a 7-month journey or so, this probe made it to Mars and had to land it in a pretty small spot on a pretty flat plane, and we nailed it right in that small spot. Nailed the thing, and I mean it's a miracle. It's like we get something that complicated, that fragile, onto a planet 90 million miles away and land it on a spot no bigger than a football field. That's really something.
It's unbelievable. It really, you know what it does to me, astrophysicist Paul Wallace. It makes me wonder why everything can't have that level of precision, right?
I know. Why can't the rest of the world work like that?
I mean, I had to call AT&T the other day because I had my phone stolen in Mexico, and you know what they tell me over there is, sorry, we can't fix that. We can't solve that. I'm like, they shot like a truck size or a train car size thing to frickin' Mars. Had to put it on its side. The thing I found so amazing about it, I think people, if they didn't watch the video and hear people talking about it, they had to cut it in through the atmosphere at exactly a 12% slide, or 12 degree.
Exactly.
Because the thing was going to burn.
Going like 12,000 miles per hour, basically.
Yeah, 12. This huge thing. They have no control over it, right? It's not like
right.
Like
It was all of it was pre-programmed. They had nothing that they could do. And another thing about it is that it all happened, like it takes about 7 minutes for it to go through the atmosphere and land.
Yeah.
And that's about exactly the delay. So we didn't know that it had, by the time we got the first signal that it hit the atmosphere, it was either already crashed or already landed on the planet.
Unbelievable. And
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's really cool. And the other amazing part about it is they like have this communication technology where they which again, you're going to have to explain to me how this works, because as far as my mind goes, Mars is a really long way away. So I don't understand how they get communication to work from this unit or driller or rover or what's it called? What's the name of this particular unit?
Insight.
The Insight craft. How do they send that data all the way from Mars and get it here? Because I couldn't get cell service, in parts of northern Minnesota.
Yeah. This is radio. It's just a radio signal on a different frequency than we're on right now. It's not on 950 AM.
The Progressive Voice of Minnesota.
It's a different radio frequency.
Yeah. And that's really what it is, huh? They're just pushing a radio signal. They've got a hunter of some variety sitting there in Houston, and it
travels for 7-8 minutes before it gets here. Yep.
Unbelievable. And then they sent these pictures back, which was also sort of incredible. And the ones I saw the other day after it had landed, it still had the dust cover on the camera, but they're taking these unbelievable photographs of the surface of Mars.
Yeah, just beautiful, just incredible, and that nobody has ever laid eyes on that landscape before, ever. Do you know?
Did it look like what the ladies and gentlemen who worked on this project thought it was going to look like? Do you know? Did they?
Yeah, it's actually pretty boring. They wanted to land it in as boring a location as possible, because what this particular lander is doing is not investigating the surface.
It's not.
It's investigating the interior of Mars. And so didn't want any big rocks or boulders that it would hit, or anything that would get in the way of its robotic arm. So they wanted the most boring, landscape possible, and they got it.
And so how did they know that? They had sent that Mars rover up there previously and rolled around and found a little flat area for a...
No, we have several orbiters that are going around Mars constantly taking pictures of the surface. Really, really beautiful high-resolution shots. And so we know we've mapped out the surface of Mars pretty high resolution now, the whole surface. And so that's how they located the spot.
See, again, this is the part I think that makes people not believe science. This is the part that makes people think no one landed on the moon, and all the conspiracy theories around, the made-up stuff about the atmosphere. Yeah. It's because it seems so incredible based on how the rest of our lives seem to go, where there's potholes and we can't seem to figure out, what's going on. Where you feel like you're bumbling around on the surface of this planet. Trying to make your way and figure out what's going down, right? And then somebody's in and then somebody's in a lab in Houston, and they were able to plot, plan, and program a rocket ship that then releases an orbiter and then releases a rover of some kind, and all of it works. And in all honesty, I mean, I believe it happened, but I got to tell you, it's unbelievable when you sort of think about it and describe it based on how so many other things that we see here on Earth have such trouble. Now, is part of this the possibility to do this because things in space or around the orbit of Mars are like super consistent? Like there's less... I don't know. There's less variation.
No, it's the same universe as ours.
Oh, jeez.
No, here in Atlanta, we had a funny thing in the news. There was a steel plate out in front of somebody's house. That the city had put down, and it stayed there for a whole year. So they had a birthday party for the steel plate because
I see.
So you couldn't collect all their steel plates, and so they actually had a birthday party for it. And it made the news, and like a day later, the steel plate, they came and picked it up.
Well, yeah, that's the point, right? It makes you think, well, how in the world do some of these things work so well and are so incredible?
Yeah,
and it's fanciful to me. So I watched. I was on vacation in Mexico, and but my wife was she had to go home a few days before I did. She has a job to keep, so she left me alone in Mexico. For which, there's not as much to do when you're around there and you're, sort of a boring middle-aged man in Mexico. So I was watching like a nerd would do on the NASA app, which is actually quite a fine app for your iPhone or Android. They have this great app, and it has all these videos on it. And they had the video of interviews of the engineers and scientists talking about how the landing went.
Yeah.
And one of the questions from someone on the internet that they raised to them was how long was the planning for this? And they gave this great answer. person said, well, in some ways, it was 17 or 7 months. In some ways, it was 17 years. Then another guy said, well, I like to say that it went back for me 33 years or whatever it was. He said, when I first started working here at NASA, I was on a work group where we were imagining if we could land something on Mars and drill into the surface to see how much, vibration there is. This guy's like, I don't know, in his early 50s or something. And he's like, 33 years ago when I was a kid working here, we were dreaming of this and pulled it all together and it landed yesterday. And I just thought that kind of ambition, that kind of we can do anything attitude, that's the finest of like exploration, human endeavor, stick-to-itiveness, all that.
Yes, there are people whose entire careers are have a moment like this. After 30 years, they have a moment like this. Either it works or it doesn't. I don't know if you saw any of the videos from the landing this last week, but there was like a grown man. He must have been in his late 50s there at Mission Control, and his chin was trembling. He was so nervous. He was like about to break down crying before it landed. But his entire careers are up in these things.
Incredible. And you think about how people like this fella was thinking about this long before it was even possible. Just incredible. Right. All right, so that's astrophysicist Paul Wallace. We'll come back with your questions for him about the Mars Insight or other things human or science-y. 952-946-6205. We'll be back after the break. Hey, welcome back. AM950, Progressive Voice of Minnesota. Here I am, the guy that's been running around for 3 months and saying welcome back to all of you, but welcome back to this portion of the show. Anyway, Hunter, are you hanging in there, my friend? Are you?
I'm hanging in.
Yeah, you doing all right? Winter has come to us here, Paul Wallace, in Minneapolis.
Really?
Yeah,
not so down here.
Yeah, no, it's heavy. It's heavy-hearted around here for those of us that have been trying to put off the realities of the winter experience.
What do you have up there? What do you have? There's low temps. You got snow. What do you got?
Yeah, we've got low temps and snow and some icy feeling. It's the whole package. It's wintry. I was out shoveling my driveway just yesterday. Having to push snow.
It's been pretty chilly here, at least for Atlanta. But we're going to have 71 on Sunday.
Oh my goodness!
I know. It's a little crazy.
This is why you don't get to have other nice
second
things.
Day of December.
That's why you don't get to have other nice things in Georgia. You spend it all on your weather. All right, 952-946-6205. Some of our regulars like to give a call in and ask the astrophysicist Paul Wallace what's going on. So give us a call, 952-946-6205. And you can have your chance to shoot a question. Paul, I was mentioning to the people who watch just on Facebook during the commercial breaks how having you on every Friday means that we talk about things, physics, and oftentimes things in the sky, science-wise. There's a lot more science-y news when you have a segment to do, as it turns out, than if you weren't paying attention to things happening in science. You know what I mean? It's kind of amazing. It's a bit like the things you look for in the world are the things you see.
It's amazing what you see when you look, huh?
Yeah, that's really it. Yeah. It's there's a lot of science, a lot of science news. Anything big on the horizon that you know is coming that we're going to be talking about in coming weeks? Things in the 2019-2020 window.
No, we are gonna send a new rover to Mars. That's not going to be for a couple more years while we're on the Mars thing. That's not going to be for a couple more years. Let me think. Nothing comes to mind off the top of my head besides that. I'm sure there's something, but right now on the spot, I can't come up with anything. Yeah,
I love the idea that there's some 24-year-old working at NASA that's like, I've got an idea. And in 2059, somebody's going to be talking about it on the radio show. Hey, Brad from Robbinsdale's got a question for us about string theory because it's Friday, and that means that Brad has a question for us about string theory. Hey, Brad. Hunter, there's a little bit of a feedback again. I don't know what's happening on that front, but that's there's a lot going on there.
I think is going to be a problem taking calls when you have Paul Wallace on the phone.
Really? You can't we can't take calls with a guest. This is the kind of thing that makes you not believe in science. Right? You just think to yourself, how could they send a radio wave back and then you just live with all these other limitations that we live with in the world. Well,
so I'm going to have to call Paul back now because of that.
Oh, because of that. Because I asked people if they would give a call. It's 952-946-6205. So I don't know why that happens on Fridays. It seems to be something. I don't know if it's especially with Paul Wallace, because we often take calls. I think it might be the magic that is Paul Wallace that we're experiencing. But a number of things that we're going to talk about when we come back here after the break, including the some news roundup from the state of Minnesota. Because on Fridays, at least in that last segment, I like to have a little bit of fun with the stories that have come up in the news. So we're going to get to that. So don't worry, we're going to get Paul Wallace back on. And I don't know what we do about calls. Hunter, I'm thinking we should not be taking any calls. Is that right, or do you want to try it again?
No.
You don't want to try it again?
Okay.
One and done. Appreciate it.
Right. Well, there is. You were asking about future missions. There's one that just went up really, and it's just gotten started. It's called TESS, and it's searching for planets around other stars.
And there's some people that
went up. It just started taking data just a month or two ago.
Wow. I mean, it's just amazing. So I heard something today, I think it was today on the news, about the fact that there's some new mission that's going to maybe go to the moon, but NASA is going to really outsource most of this to for-profit companies. That crowd, the SpaceX and those people. Do you know much about that? Is that the kind of thing that's good for science? Is that good for the aerospace and aero science world?
I wish I knew more about that particular one to say, but I think that partnerships like that are great. I would become concerned if they became too profit driven. But in general, I'm in favor of things like that. I'm pro exploration basically, and if Elon Musk and SpaceX wants to help explore the moon, then I'm all for that.
Now, I recognize the idea that companies like that can make a lot of money off of selling fancy cars, or the guy who creates PayPal and all the rest of it, Elon Musk.
Right.
But countries have more money than private companies, right? So
that's true. Even Elon Musk's companies.
Yeah, right.
They have a lot more money.
It's not even close, right? These are the kinds of things that you can't expect. This is what people like me who think about the role of the government and the way that all of us have more money than some of us, even if the some of us are the elites, and the governments have more money. Why is it that with all this great news that comes out, as we're talking about, all these things to talk about every week that go on, we don't have a kind of just a raging desire to spend money on things like this? Like why do we have to be out on the open market pitching it to some for-profit companies and then hope that they don't try to make turn it into just a for-profit avenue?
Well, that's a good question, and my cynical answer is that because it's politically unmotivated. There's not like during the Cold War, during the space race, there was a political push. That thing was it was all political, and now of course it was exploration, but it was driven by Congress and the government for political purposes. That is to beat the Russians.
Yeah. Well, then what's so funny now is that the U.S., as far as I understand it, uses Russian rockets to get our people to the space station.
Yes.
So
these days that's ironic, isn't it?
So
hold on one second.
Yeah. So what I don't.
Yes.
what I guess I
So
don't
that's
understand.
ironic. I agree.
What I don't understand is how come we can't come up with in this country a big, bold movement that says this is super important, regardless if it was competing with another country or competing with ourselves or just kind of having a narrative around it. It's one of the places where I think we just miss out.
Most people aren't like us. Most people aren't like us. Most people don't care. Most people don't, and
right.
I hate to
even
say
right
it.
now, even listening to the radio, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I don't care." Well, I care, Paul Wallace. I'm glad you're an astrophysicist.
But I will say that it does seem like a good idea to put money into things that actually work and do the things they're supposed to do.
Yes, and they landed this thing, on a dime on Mars, for crying out loud. It just, I don't know. There should be something more than guys having their little videos well received on their NASA app, is what I'm getting at.
I agree.
Agree. A guy comes up with a hit song and he becomes a millionaire. A guy lands a rover on friggin' Mars, and he just goes back to his day job the next day. Something wrong with that. Hey, thank you, Paul Wallace. We'll talk to you next Friday.
Okay.
Hey, everybody, hold tight. We'll be back here with a little local news here after the break. AM950, Progressive Voice of Minnesota. Hey, AM950, Progressive Voice of Minnesota. Back here on a Friday. I'm looking out my little window here in my basement, and it's dark out there already, which means we're in the slide. It's 4:34, and the sky is dark already. It's winter time. I know it's not like winter in the what's the word, Hunter, when it's by the calendar, the astrological winter or something. But boy,
Solstice?
It's not. We're not into the solstice yet, but there's a word for that. If people want to risk it, they give us a call 952-946-6205 and tell us about that. But winter has come. The darkness has fallen. In fact, the thing I like so much about the 21st of December, the winter solstice, is it's the darkest day. It's not the darkest. It's dark the longest day.
Uh-huh.
But that means the next day it's starting to get brighter already. See, that's an optimist view of the darkest day. That tomorrow, the day that's these are the days, these next 20 days where we lead up to the darkest or the longest day. Those are the days that really get you. Hey, Hunter, are you following this story about the student at Osseo High School? Yeah. This is so people who aren't familiar yet, there's a student there whose understanding of sexual identity and gender is different than that of how other people have acknowledged this person. It's often called transgender. And apparently was followed into the bathroom at the school, and the Osseo school faculty had to come in and try to get into a bathroom stall and to seemingly eject this person from being in the bathroom that's the wrong one, according to the rules of the bathroom rules of Osseo Senior High School. And I don't know, Hunter, have you followed the story much today? Do you know if there's been any new developments in what's going on?
Not any new developments, but
it's
familiar.
It's just what it shows me. And I have a number of friends that who are transgender and people that work in the communities who deal with a lot of students who are understanding their own identity and their gender identity and their sexual identity, and they're not the same thing. It's confusing, right? And it gets confusing to a lot of people. And as much as it sort of has become available in popular culture for people to think about transgender issues, we're not good at it, and we're still operating with the skill sets of ages in which we spoke about people who had some sort of what we now call transgender as like gender dysphoria, or there's something wrong with them. And there's still an awful lot of people who their feeling is, well, there's something wrong here, but I'm a nice person and a kind person and a progressive person, so I'm not going to point out or I'm not going to hold it against someone that they're transgender, but it's still kind of wrong, right? That exists in a lot of spaces. I'm around a lot of people who do that work. And there's a lot of organizations like Out Front Minnesota that I'm a big advocate for and a big fan of, and think they do really great work, and have done some work with them in the past. They try to help people to understand in a different way, because we don't just need, around issues of gender and transgender peoples, we don't just need to think different things. We actually need to think about things in different ways. And that's a whole lot more work to do. And all of the pressure that is a local high school, and all of the mixture of ranges of perspectives that are in these circumstances, someone who's dealing with transgender issues needs to be given the widest of breadth, in my view, the most level of care. Like, you really have to be careful, and you really have to go overboard in making sure that you're being accommodating. What people would call, and I can imagine my friend Randy would say this, what people would call being aggressively politically correct. Yeah, I think that's exactly what you need to do, is be aggressively politically correct, right? That if political correctness was going to run amok, let's say, this is a pretty good issue on which it should run amok. In other words, you should be really, really attentive to what you know and don't know, and to not begin to act on issues like chasing someone out of a bathroom if you're not able to talk about it in ways that are more helpful and more protecting of students. And I know that the school is saying, and they say this in the paper, that the social media post that the student put up while, I think, live streaming, or at least recording and posting later, that those social media posts, and you can watch it on Facebook, or you can go to the Minnesota CBSLocalNews.com, and you can find it there, that they say those posts significantly misrepresent the incident and the staff who work very hard every day to help ensure an inclusive school where all students feel welcome, respected, and safe. We wish you could provide additional details about the incident, but are committed to protecting the student's right of data privacy. So in other words, they don't want to talk about it. Well, I appreciate the fact that school districts have to think about and care about their staff who work really, really hard. And I understand how difficult it is for adults to have to interact with teenagers and children in school systems around these very complex issues. But this sort of points out the very problem that the first response of organizations, often even our school districts, where people do such great work, is, hey, we're doing the best we can. I think what we need to recognize is, no, we're not doing the best we can. Like, if we wanted to do the best we could, we'd work a whole lot harder to try to understand these issues of how we're going to recognize the spectrum on which people understand their own gender and their sexuality. We don't do very well with this in our society. And sometimes those of us who are progressive will end up saying things like, well, once it gets accepted enough into society, and by acceptance we tend to mean once it's no longer forbidden, or it's no longer attacked. If it's somehow protected, then we've done as much as we can do. And I think that's just the start. To not attack someone is not the best we can do. To simply be accepting is not the best we can do. Humanity has the ability, and each of us possess the capacity for deep empathy, to understand deeply. So we're not doing the best we can on issues of understanding variety of opinions and experiences around gender. We don't do it in the military. We don't do it with stars or people that are big, people that are in the media. We can tend to think like, oh, I now watch a TV show about this, or a character, I sort of get it. Again, that is like the most base level. For people who deal with very significant issues around their own experiences of how they recognize themselves and how they present themselves in the world and how they live in the world. These are really big issues. So if you want to know how to do this, you start by talking to transgender people and you let them lead the process. Because for those of us who don't have an experience of being transgender, we don't even know how to think about this. All right, so let's go to Phil in Golden Valley. Phil, what's your thought on this? So you've been thinking about this for a while?
Well, Matt, in his wonderful way, has sort of done a bit of a Matt routine on it, and I think I agree with Matt pretty heavily. if you were going to take an activity that would be an example of having big understanding, they would not have broken into the stall in the bathroom. They would have stayed outside and talked through the door or opened the door a little and say, okay, you can take whatever time you need in this bathroom, but I mean, the students do leave at 3, and after a certain time after that, we do turn all the lights off and lock all the doors, and so you just have to think about what you need to do, and we'll be out here waiting for you, but we're not going to disturb you, but the school will be locked up after a certain time.
Yeah.
They did not have to break in that door.
Of course not.
There was no sign that there was any life-threatening behavior going on, either toward the self-harming or harming anybody else. This was not a case of they thought the person was going to do some damage to anything. They just needed some alone time. And it's like, it was completely and absolutely beyond inappropriate for anybody to go into a bathroom in a school and physically damage or force open a door to drag somebody out of a bathroom stall because they're having a mental health crisis or having a serious problem even in their head. And they displayed poor judgment doing that. Extremely poor judgment.
Yeah, thank you, Phil.
Didn't need any.
Thank you, Phil. I appreciate that comment a lot, and I think you're right. But I sort of want to do a Doug thing on this, right? In this sense, I think they did the best they could at the school, and that's the problem. The problem is that they're not trained up. In all these years, we've been talking about issues of gender in this country and around the world. They haven't been trained up in a way that what they have available to them is a chance to act and respond in different and better ways. So it is true that it's poor judgment. I agree. The problem, as I see it, is the poor judgment is the best they've got on this topic. It's the best way they have to think about it is poor judgment. And you know you're really in trouble when your best option is still poor judgment. And this is the work that we have to do, all of us, around issues of especially transgender relationships and transgender engagement, is recognize that our very best is still nowhere close to being good enough. So there's a lot of work left to do. And this is the thing that I think as a society, we have to start to talk about how are we going to do better? And the way we're going to do better is to take seriously that our very best is still nowhere close to good enough. Because if we believe that they had available to them, the leaders at the school, the police liaisons, the people mounted to the hall, that what they had available to them was a really good set of choices, and they didn't choose the good options, they chose the poor ones, then we can just call it a poor choice. I think the problem is they made their very best choice because they don't have very good choices. And that's what we have to work hard on, is to give all of us as a society and each of us as individuals a greater set of range for how we can understand and work better on these issues. There's a lot of work to do. That's why you need a progressive voice, not only in politics, but in these kinds of cultural issues. So this is it's a really significant one. We need to work hard on. AM950, Progressive Voice of Minnesota. We'll be back after the break. Here we go. Hey, welcome back, Game 950, Progressive Voice in Minnesota. You know, Hunter, I heard that last little commercial there about Northern Sun. And having traveled around the country the last couple of months, when I tell people that I'm from Minnesota, you know what they say? Yeah, don't sound like it. That Sven and Ole accent thing really carries, I'll tell you. It's
yeah.
Now, you know, if somebody's living in Minnesota and they're from another place, they're like, oh yeah, you do sound like it. I do sound like it. All right, Hunter, are you ready? Let's do this little Star Tribune 10-question news survey. The Star Tribune weekly news quiz. Let's see if we can get those kids to sponsor us here on the show. Become one of the sponsors with this, and we'll cover it every Friday. All right, here we go. We got to go quick because I've realized how fast these go with our quippy comments in between. All right, General Motors, Hunter, announced a restructuring this week, and it affected more than 14,000 workers and possibly idling of 5 plants. Which Chevrolet models was not part of the plan to be cut? Which one? The Chevy Cruze, the Chevy Impala, the Chevy Volt, or the Malibu?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm going for the Volt. You know why? Because I think incorrect. Wow.
Oh.
I really thought I was on that one. The Malibu. Holy cow! I really thought it was the. I thought it was their electric car they weren't going to cut. All right, next question. Well, that surprises me. I'm off to. I don't even have a lot of room to win if you want to do as well as the other people on this test. All right. Question number 2. Minnesota again had the highest voter turnout in November of any state. Did you know that? Highest voter turnout, I think by percentage, not by sheer number. Which state, Hunter, was second? Was it Colorado, Maine, Montana, or was Oregon second in voter turnout percentage?
I'm going to say Oregon. You're
going to say Oregon. Incorrect. The correct answer, Colorado. I think we're on a roll here. Let's see if we can get them all wrong. All right. President Trump, God, just every time I say it, there's something in the back of my throat. President Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, admitted to lying to Congress this week about what kind of work that he was doing for Trump. Was it negotiating payments to a former porn star, Stormy Daniels, on Trump's behalf? Was it tax work for the Trump Foundation? Was it pursuing a deal to build Trump Tower in Moscow? All of the above, none of the above. He did do all those things, but
I don't know.
You don't know? Oh, I've been big into this one the last day. I got this one. This is like the Chevy Volt answer to these things. Pursuing a deal to build Trump Tower in Moscow. It's a big deal. Donald Trump is going to go to jail for that one. Donald Trump Jr. is going to go to jail for that one. All right, next question. Question number 4 on our little question, on our 4 out of 10. This is a really sad one. I mean, okay, here we go. A man sexually assaulted nearly 3 years ago by the predator who later went on to abduct, molest, and kill Jacob Wetterling. That man, who was also assaulted, was awarded $17 million by Stern County judge. What's the victim's name? Was the victim who received this award Kevin Anderson, Jared Sherrill, Christian Wohl, or Anton Foley?
Wait, pronounce the second one again.
Jared Sherrill? I don't know how to pronounce it. I think that's him, though. I think it's Jared.
Yeah.
You going to go with that with me?
Yeah.
Or are we going to have a split vote? All right, I'm going with Jared. Correct. And 78% of people got that one correct. I thought we'd be in the offing here. All right, Margaret Atwood.
It's pronounced way different.
It is pronounced way different. But not only do I not know how to pronounce it, I don't have my glasses on.
Either,
I can barely read the screen.
Remember.
Okay, Margaret Atwood announced this week that she's writing a sequel to The Handmaid's Tale. What is the new book called that is a sequel to The Handmaid's Tale? Huh? This is pop culture and like total nerdy stuff. Is it Offred's Revenge, Gilead Revisited, Spring Undone, or The Testaments?
I don't know anything about this.
I don't even know The Handmaid's Tale. I think it's a TV show.
Yeah.
I don't know. People say I should watch it. I'm going to go with The Testaments just because I'm a particularly skilled religious observer, and I think that would be a great name for a sequel. So I'm going to. Do you want to go with any other ones?
Yeah, sounds good.
Good with you?
No. Yep.
Hey, correct. And only 36% of the people got it correct. That is a testament to us, my friend. See what I did there? Made a testaments joke. All right. Question number 6. Minneapolis inspectors received 7 complaints last winter about unshoveled sidewalks at which city leader's home? Oh, this is awesome. I didn't even know this was a thing. I'm that guy in Minneapolis that calls in when people don't shovel their sidewalks. I'm that guy. I'm not afraid. 311. Ring them up. I don't think it does any good, considering the fact that you have to call 7 times. Was it Jacob Fry, Lisa Bender, Abdi Warsami, or Alondra Cano? I'm going to go Jacob Fry.
Yeah.
He just strikes, I don't know. I know he's the mayor, but he just strikes me as a guy that wouldn't shovel his own walk. No, incorrect. Lisa Bender. Oh,
I don't know.
Hey, sorry about that, Jacob Fry. You're not the kind of guy. You shovel. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't know if he shoveled his walk. I have no idea. I don't even know if he has a walk to shovel. I'm not giving him street cred for being the kind of guy that shovels his walk. All right, 3 more. Question number 7. What hotel company announced this week that a security breach could affect data from up to 500 million of its customers? Did you hear this one? 500 million customers think that they believe that 500 million customers had their data breached in this hotel chain. Which, frankly, I was talking about this with somebody today. That's a lot of people. 500 million. I mean, there's only 350 million in the United States, and some of those people don't have credit cards. So you're talking about like a nation two worth of, it's unbelievable. Was it the hotel company, Marriott, Hilton, Intercontinental Hotel Groups, or Wyndham? I know the answer to this one. It's Jacob Fry. No, the answer is Marriott, but it's not Marriott. It's that Marriott owns Stonewood or whatever, and that's the one. So I'm going to go with Marriott. And correct, the breach happened by the Starwood, which it acquired in 2016. So Marriott buys Starwood in 2016 and then finds out that Starwood had a data breach in 2014 and 15. That's what you get for buying a off-brand. All right, Esquire this week named what Twin Cities restaurant one of the best new restaurants in America in 2018. I didn't even know this was a thing. I'm not going to know of any of these restaurants. Was it Octo Fish Bar? Was it Hiya High, Young Joni, or Lucky Cricket?
It's Young Joni.
Young Joni. I'm going with Young Joni along with you, my friend, and the answer is incorrect. Hi. Ninth place spot on the national list, where chef that I've never heard of was named the Rising Star of the Year. See, that's the kind of thing that happens. I don't even know that that's a restaurant, and it's one of the best in the whole country. Oh, we got to hurry up. Yeah. All right, Steven Heilenberg died this week. Who was he? Was he an award-winning movie director, the last survivor of the Titanic, the creator of SpongeBob SquarePants, or largely credited with inventing hydrogen fuel cell vehicles?
SpongeBob SquarePants.
Is that true? You know that?
Yes.
That's a true one? All right, correct. Nice job. Okay, our last question. The winner of the Star Tribune Holiday Cookie Contest this week features what ingredients? Cornflakes, dates, figs, or mayonnaise?
Mayonnaise.
I'm going with mayonnaise. I'm going with you, my friend. Mayonnaise, incorrect. It was figs. But you know what? This is the mayonnaise of radio shows. AM950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Talk to you Monday.